All right, we got how Disney destroyed Star Wars video essay from Movie Overload. Closing in on that 100K. Good luck, man. You'll probably get it. Okay, let me see.
Star Wars. I used to laugh at people when they joked that Disney were killing Star Wars when the sequel trilogy came out.
I wasn't. I was not laughing. I, I'm trying to think. When what was the first Star Wars that came out? Or not the first one, but of like the new one of the Force Awakens, this one. I thought when the Force Awakens first came out, I thought it was good. It was pretty good. But it wasn't until subsequent watches is where it lost its magic. I was like, "Oh, okay. They there's another bigger Death Star. It's like massive. It's like 10 times a normal Death Star and it kills multiple planets. It's just bigger." Okay. Yeah. Sure.
Everywhere I looked, there were headlines and frustrated fans expressing their disdain toward Disney over them seemingly ruining Star Wars and killing Star Wars. And I remember reading those headlines back then and reading the comments and thinking, are you kidding me? Star Wars can't die. It's Star Wars.
Yeah.
Well, I think I might have been a little naive back then. A few years ago, I would have considered myself to be a mega Star Wars fan.
Same.
I created a YouTube channel around it and turned it into a job. But here I sit a few years later in 2024.
I was a Star Wars fan in so much that I watched the movies. I bought some plastic lightsabers to beat the shit that me and my friends bought together and beat the shit out of each other with multiple times. That's about it. I never got into like the secondary or tertiary like forms of media with like either comic books or graphic novels or just regular ass novels, like the thick ass books of like the Star Wars legends and stuff like that. I never really was like into those books because well, first and foremost, I wasn't even aware of them to begin with. Oh yeah, and I played a lot of Star Wars video games back in the day. Star Wars video games back in the day were overall pretty damn fucking good.
And the mere sight of the brand makes me want to crawl up into a ball and die. Because I have watched something I love wither away and become a shell of what it once was.
Yeah.
And any new product pushed out from this brand is being met with extreme amounts of hate. Look at the Acolyte trailer, for example. And
I don't even know what that is. What the heck is Acolyte?
even Star Wars Outlaws. Both were absolutely smashed online. Now
Well, yeah. I mean, most namely because the damn game is 100. There's an edition of the game that is $130. That's a huge negative for the consumers.
I've made videos talking about the state of Star Wars before, but this time it's different. I have never been so disenfranchised with Star Wars as I am right now. And the state of Star Wars has arguably never been in a worse place than it is today. And as a form of therapy, I knew I had to talk about what the hell Disney have done to ruin something that I used to love and my life just about revolved around.
Yes, that's good. Because, yeah.
And I know a lot of you guys out there watching feel the same way. Now look, if you still love Star Wars and Disney, they're cooking for you.
Oh yeah, they are.
Great. Tell me I'm a dickhead in the comments. That's fine. I can take it. But for the rest of you like me, let's just go on a therapeutic journey of how Disney destroyed Star Wars. Let's vent a little bit. Before we do though, we are closing in on 100,000 subscribers, and it would mean the world to me if you could hit that subscribe button so we can reach that massive milestone.
Be sure
to follow us over on Twitch, where we chat a bit of shit about movies and play some games too. I think you'll have a good time if you check it out. And the last bit of housekeeping before we really get into the fun stuff, a quick note from today's sponsor. This video is sponsored by Displate. Now, Displate make unique metal posters like this one here that capture your passions and are a great alternative to just paper posters on the wall or canvas prints.
Nice.
They have over 2 million artworks available on their website, ranging from Star Wars.
Bro, some of these aren't like almost all of these like original like pieces. You know, somebody took time and effort to like make one of those. I love this stuff. I think I might get one time.
Marvel, gaming, TV shows, sports, and tons of other iconic brands and franchises, you will find something for you. Now, Displate actually sent me out a bunch of these for my office. As you can see here, I have a Last of Us one. I've got a Dune Part 2 one, and you guys know how much I love Dune Part 2. So these, great additions to my office. Now, apart from them looking absolutely amazing and just being a great addition to your office, one of the best parts about Displates is how easy they are to install. Thanks to their magnet mounting system, it's easy, super quick, and it will not damage your walls. And if you want to swap Displates around, it's literally as easy as taking one off and putting another back on. Like, it's that easy. No damage to your walls, easy done. They also have a new exciting addition to the Displate lineup with Textra, which include tactile textures, 3D contours, and selective matte and gloss effects for a truly unique look.
Nice.
Now, they have hundreds of these across the range at the moment, and they're going to be adding more over the next few months. But right now, you can pick up ones like this It Part 2 one here. If I rock it back and forth in the light, you can see the contours. And if you look at the Dune Part 2 one here, I rock it back and forth, you can see it once again. And when these are up on the wall,
pretty
they
cool.
look fantastic. So what are you waiting for? Be sure to check out Displate through the link below. And also, if you want, use my code MovieOverload. If you buy 1 to 2 Displates, you'll get 27% off your order. If you buy 3 or more, you'll get 37% off your order. So be sure to check it out through the links below. And of course, a massive thank you to Displate for sponsoring this video.
Nice. The sequels.
So, it's fair to say that when George Lucas signed Star Wars over to Disney, Star Wars as a brand was there, but it was just kind of meandering. Disney, without question, brought it back to the top of the pop culture zeitgeist with the release of The Force Awakens.
Yeah.
That movie still stands as the highest grossing domestic film of all time.
Really? That's crazy. Because, like, I would imagine The Force Awakens was, like, the first new, like, numbered Star Wars that came out in, like, the modern day when social media was, like, at its, like, you know, prime time. Or, like, not golden era, but, like, it's more prevalent when Force Awakens came out versus, like, when, what was it, like, episode, what was it, 4, 5, 6? And then they did 1, 2, and 3. When 1, 2, and 3 came out, the social media wasn't as much of a thing as it is when Force Awakens came out. So I could understand why there was so much anticipation, because essentially the first 6 movies were like a knot. Like, they were like a bundle. It was like, okay, we told the story from 1 to 6. That story is done. And then here comes 6, going to start a new story potentially for like 6 episodes. And, you know, here we have like, what is this? 7? Yeah, now we have 7, 8, 9. And who knows if they're going to make a 10, 11, 12. Like, how you going to do that?
It was a cultural phenomenon.
I don't know. Maybe the Emperor can come back again.
Star Wars was back, and the film was received relatively well, generating strong reviews with the average pushback you'd expect out of the Star Wars fandom. Then Rogue One came out a year later, and to be honest, was actually pretty good.
Yeah.
I still think it's by far the best Disney Star Wars movie. That's not really saying much, I know, but I dig the shit out of Rogue One still to this day. But then The Last Jedi came out, splitting the fandom in 2. Half of the fandom saying it was the worst thing to happen to Star Wars and an insult to the franchise.
It was so bad, dude. Like, it wasn't terrible. Like, it wasn't like The Room level terrible. But, like, the plot holes, there like literally no lightsaber connected in that movie. Luke Skywalker dies. Like, what are we doing? Come on.
And the other half saying it's a masterpiece. Regardless of whether or not you hate The Last Jedi or you love it, it's undeniable that this was the moment in time that put Star Wars on a path that leads us to where we are now, with the Star Wars IP being a bit of a laughingstock. This was the moment where things started to go wrong.
Oh yeah, wasn't that the movie? Like, the middle one? Wasn't that the one where Luke Skywalker drank the blue milk out of the animal's titty? Yeah, that was like, I was like, when I saw that in the movies, I was like, what the fuck are we doing? Or like the first entry scene in the second one where he's like, he's got the damn lightsaber in his hands and he just tosses it over his shoulder. Like, what the fuck are you doing? I was like, oh my god. I'm not gonna walk out, but I'll watch it. I was like so close to walking out. I was like, what the fuck does that mean? The light, is that some sort of like philosophical thing of like, oh, don't need this? I was like kind of intrigued, but like in retrospect, I was like, God, that's a fucking bonehead move from that fucking director, dude.
Retroactively, The Last Jedi made The Force Awakens a worse movie, as any interesting setup was just thrown away. It was clear that there was just no vision from Disney here, with J.J. Abrams and Rian Johnson's films both feeling like they weren't even a part of the same trilogy.
Yeah.
There was nothing cohesive about these films together, and it had the fandom.
I mean, that scene was cool. Like when go back.
There was nothing cohesive about
when he's like yelling at him to like, you know, the Force hologram of Luke Skywalker comes out, and the dude's like, kill him. And then, you know, all the AT-ATs are like shooting their lasers down, and he's like, more. Like, that was a cool part, like that little scene, that little bit. But then I was like, oh, how'd he survive? Oh, okay, whatever. And then maybe he's got like a force shield that he did, but like they didn't even like animate a force shield, so it like leaves you scratching your head, like how the fuck did he survive? And then he like goes down, gets out of the AT-AT, and he's like starts to like fight him, and all Luke is doing is like dodging and shit or whatever. And then what was it? Did he like swipe him with the lightsaber, and then that killed Luke Skywalker because he killed the force projection? And if you kill the force projection, that means you kill the person themselves. It's like, what kind of fucking stupid ass movie magic is this? This is so dumb.
These films together, and it had the fandom in a frenzy. But that's okay, because there's still one more film to come, one that can conclude the trilogy and make it all make sense. Yeah, that didn't happen.
No.
The Rise of Skywalker.
It was worse. It was worse. Somehow the Emperor came back.
Concluded the sequel trilogy and was probably the worst of the three films. Kathleen Kennedy got rid of Colin Trevorrow, who was supposed to direct episode 9, and she brought back J.J. Abrams, who somehow had to pay off the mystery boxes he planted in The Force Awakens, whilst also acknowledging The Last Jedi, which basically threw them away in favor of subverting expectations. And as you...
Yeah, and that fucking, what do you call it? Oh yeah, and then in the second one, didn't they kill Snoke in the second one? So it's like, yeah, Snoke turns out, it was like, he was like built up to be like some sort of like other Sith bro, like mentoring Kylo, and then oh no, we just killed him. And then what was it, in the third one they had that horrendous fucking red room, red guards fucking choreography scene where like people are just like swiping and going through the motions of the choreography, and like when you slow that shit down, it's like, what the fuck is happening? God, bro, like, ugh, it's just so sad, man. When they can't even, like, the fucking best lightsaber fight was in, what was it? Episode 3 with Anakin and Obi-Wan. It was like, what, 15 or 20 minutes of just straight lightsaber fighting. And to prepare for that little 15, 20 minute fight, like, they had to do months of choreography work, doing shit over and over and over again. That's how you do choreography. That's how you get these cool ass fights. It's because the actors are in there practicing day in, day out, fucking doing the same goddamn moves from memory, committing it to muscle memory. Okay, do this, do that. But like all these like big grandiose choreographed fights where it's like, or at least the red guard versus the red guards, it was like you got two people, they have to memorize their shit, and then you got this little mini kumite thing of like 10 guards around. It's like, how do you fucking like rehearse that shit? Like you would obviously think that like, oh, you know, they're gonna do this conventional like choreograph, like just gun it until like you committed it to memory. But even in the final version of it, it looks so bad. Like fights that are like that big and that long, even like up to like 12 people seemingly, You just can't get them done. They can't look as good. You know, look at all the Jackie Chan movies. It's like the main character is Jackie Chan, and you know, there's probably some level of choreography going on, but like he had an entire team that was like dedicated to doing shit over and over and over again until they got it like correct and perfect, or not, maybe not perfect, but like to the point where it looked fucking good enough. Like with this, everyone's on a time schedule. Oh, I'm not athletic enough to do this move. Okay, so we can just cut the camera and do jump cuts and like make the audience fucking dizzy and all that shit. And it's like, oh god, like the fight scenes are just like they don't put enough work into the fight scenes to making it look like believable to me.
You can imagine, it didn't work. They brought Palpatine back to try and save a dying story. They retconned half of The Last Jedi. They made Finn force sensitive because I still don't
Because
know to
reasons.
this day. And basically, it's just the perfect example of everything a massive Hollywood blockbuster shouldn't be. The Rise of Skywalker made money, yes, but it continued the downward trajectory, and it was released in 2019, which for some reason was notorious for bad and mediocre movies joining the $1 billion club. It was clear come 2020 that Star Wars, whilst not completely in the ground, had definitely taken a massive hit with the disappointment of the sequel trilogy. In fact, many people were so disappointed by—
And then what was it? In this one, Rey got like a healing move, like force heal, like out of nowhere, just because the story needed her to be able to heal Kylo or something like that. It's like, what the fuck? Where was your force heal in the other movies? You just get it just because the story needs it?
by the sequel trilogy that they turned into Thanos and said, perhaps I treated you too harshly to the prequels. Yes, the sequels being bad made people who hated the prequels like the prequels. That's powerful stuff. But little did we know that the sequel trilogy was only—
And that's crazy when you have like some retrospective realizations happening, because you know, like the was it episode 1, 2, and 3 are like not what's the word, unreproachable. Like they weren't the best, but they weren't the worst by far, like compared to all of this shit.
only really the start of the downfall of Star Wars.
Relying on the past.
Over the past few years, it's become abundantly clear that Star Wars has a serious problem with its inability to abide by one of the main themes of The Last Jedi, that being—
The main issue with Star Wars is that it cannot tell a proper story, and anytime you want to include space wizards, you know, Jedi Sith in this movie, in this like IP, there's always some sort of like a force of bullshit that just overwrites like conventional thinking for like normal humans or aliens. When it comes to like space wizards, Star Wars cannot get their shit right.
being letting the past die. As it's become clear in the past few years through a series of good, mid, and bad shows on Disney Plus that Disney simply cannot let the past die, often relying on bringing back past characters to make the present shows worthwhile.
Yeah, these are what's called member berries. Remember this, remember that, remember this, remember that. That's what a member berry is.
Relying on nostalgia to carry the dead and tired storytelling from writers who have admitted to knowing nothing about Star Wars. Yet for some reason, Disney continue to hire them. The Mandalorian was a nice return to form for its first 2 seasons, giving us a fresh idea with characters that were actually interesting, and a story that didn't make me want to put my head in a microwave. But even the golden egg that was The Mandalorian wasn't immune to how bad Star Wars would become. Season 3 being a masterclass and being a big old nothing burger.
A big old pile of dick salad.
And a complete and utter waste of time.
Yeah.
Like seriously, I can't tell you what happened in season 3 of The Mandalorian besides people walking around slowly and Jack Black and Lizzo.
Also, remember the little scooter scene? Or was that in like a different season? The scooter scene, Rose, with the android people with like, they had like robo leg, robo arm, robo eye, or whatever. They're like the cool guys. God, I remember that. That scene was just so horrendous.
Now, even though season 2 of The Mandalorian was good, it still felt the need to rely on the past, which was frustrating because the show was already good without characters like Ahsoka and Luke Skywalker making an appearance. But it just went to show that regardless of the quality of the story, good or bad, Disney were intent on nostalgia baiting everything they do. Book of Boba Fett came out, and the only thing that was actually worth watching were the 2 episodes in which there was no Boba Fett.
Yeah. The Book of Boba Fett ended up being Mandalorian side quest.
Mandalorian came in and hijacked the show and reminded us how bad the rest of the show was. Boba Fett wasn't Boba Fett at all, and it's clear it was just another case of bringing back a fan favorite character like Boba Fett so we could do the Leo DiCaprio meme. Because Star Wars is now a cameo simulator. After Book of Boba Fett, Obi-Wan Kenobi was the next big thing for Disney.
Oh god, this fucking was so bad. I will forever remember the scene where he couldn't get past the laser fence and there was nothing on the sides of it. Like, you could like, this was it. I will draw this in real time. What is this? Paint. Flashbang. Okay. So, brush. Okay, so there's, of course, it was in fucking Tatooine, because you can't do anything on any other planet besides Tatooine. I'm fucking sick and tired of Tatooine. All right, there is like a hill and a valley on that side, and there's like a hill, not a mountain, but like on the other side, and like here's the ground. You know, and that just goes up off the scene. That just goes up off the scene, and there is a fence, like a checkpoint outpost thing that you're supposed to like. Okay, hi. Okay, yep, I'm going through. Let me through. Okay, here's my papers and stuff like that. There is like a little house thing right there. Fuck, a little house right there for like a guard or something, and then like a thing right there, and then this is the laser fence. You know, it's like lasers. Whoa, my god. And Obi-Wan is like right here. I think he had his lightsaber. For some reason, he could not get past this. Like, I think he killed everybody. Like, or I don't know if he killed, but like he knocked out everybody or something like that. Like, here's a little door. And he like, I don't know what happened. I forgot. I want to like delete it from my memory, but I can't because it was so bad. He could not get past this. He could not. Conventional thinking would just be to go that way around. All right. But no, he had to like go on like the side here where there's like a little electrical outlet box. He had to like short circuit the wires, so then the fucking the lasers would go down. It's like, oh, okay, all the lasers are down. Now I can go through. Now I can go through that way. Holy shit, dude. When I saw that, I was so absolutely frustrated. Or the other time where the Darth Vader scene where he's fighting Darth Vader and there's like a wall of fire and Vader pushes the fire away and then somehow the fire comes back up and then Obi-Wan is just like, okay, I gotta run. I can't beat him. But then Vader is just like, I'm gonna let you go this time. But before that, Vader was chasing Obi-Wan for like a half an hour. But then he's just gonna let him go. Like, what the fuck?
Star Wars. Regardless of it making absolutely no sense, they decided to bring back fan favorite Ewan McGregor as the iconic Obi-Wan Kenobi for a showdown with Darth Vader. Now, this was one of those situations where canonically it makes absolutely no sense, but people were willing to let it go based off the premise of the show alone. That being, Obi-Wan and Vader have a rematch of the century. Those are Disney's words, not mine. And that would have been fine,
Yeah.
but that's not what the show was at all.
No, it
As
wasn't.
time was taken away from Obi-Wan and Darth Vader and given to a new character called Reva, whose character was a copy and paste of the second sister from the video game Jedi Fallen Order. But devoid of any likability, sympathy, or use to the story that made the second sister such a great character in that game. Not to mention, Deborah Chow's direction was sloppy, lazy, with an over-reliance on shaky cam to hide the budget. Because the budget just did not match
90 million for for 6 episodes, leading to some criticism of its CGI and prosthetics. Oh my god. That is so funny.
the scope of the show. The show's writer, Joby Harold, openly admitted that he doesn't know anything about Star Wars, and for some reason
How are you gonna hire someone that don't know shit about Star Wars?
was still hired. And let's not forget that the first fight between Obi-Wan and Vader looked like it was ripped from a fan film and shot on a construction site down the
Yeah,
road.
there are fan films of like lightsaber scenes that absolutely trounce this debacle that happened. Ugh.
Road to save money. Save for a couple small moments, this show was a massive disappointment for a lot of people.
Yes.
Oh yeah, and Obi-Wan also doesn't know how to walk around a gate
Oh yeah, here it is. He's gonna do it right here. Yeah, like that guy got sliced in half.
now. Like,
There it is. He had to like he shot the thing. Like, look at this. This is horrible. Like, just take a second. You can literally just go like that. Oh, I gotta shoot the thing. This is like the worst camera shot that they could have done for this little part. Oh my god, they could have chose a better angle.
what is
Oh, and this was also the fucking show where little tiny 6-year-old Princess Leia outruns adults. Yeah. That happened.
this man? Now, it,
Like, look at it. Look at it.
like, what is this man?
Look at it. He could have went that way. He could have went that way. Why did you have to do a drone shot of the... You literally shot yourself in the foot by doing this shot.
Now, it was great seeing Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen back, and they both did a great job with what they were given.
Yeah, I mean, this scene was fine or whatever, but essentially you can chalk it up to as a gigantic, well, not even a gigantic, like a little tiny member berry. Hey, you guys remember when Obi-Wan and Anakin sparred?
Especially Hayden Christensen, who was about the only bright spot in the entire show. But man, this one was a letdown. And this is where my love for Star Wars really started to dwindle. And I know I'm not alone here. If they couldn't get this right, what could they get right? But then Andor released, and it ended up being by far the best show we've seen on Disney+.
Yeah.
Dropping the nostalgia baiting and just letting good filmmakers and good writers tell a compelling story with depth and nuance within the Star Wars universe. The main complaint people have about Andor is that it doesn't
It's slow. It's a little slow.
feel like Star Wars.
Yeah.
And that's the point. The fact it doesn't feel like Star Wars is why it's so great. Because Star Wars has evolved into an empty cameo simulator where everything looks like a high-budget fan film. Andor goes completely against that. The dialogue in this show makes the rest of the Disney Plus shows look absolutely pathetic. It might not be everyone's cup of tea because there's no lightsabers, but Andor is by far the best show on Disney Plus when it comes to the story, the writing, the direction, the characters, the dialogue. It's just not even close.
Yeah.
So after Andor came out, I had a little bit of hope that Star Wars might actually get back on track. But then it was back to regular programming with Ahsoka. Now for context, Ahsoka is a top 3 Star Wars character for me.
I didn't even watch Ahsoka. I was just so disinterested. Like, I saw all of Star Wars Clone Wars, and I thought, you know, that, like, Star Wars Clone Wars is, like, one of the better parts of Star Wars, to be honest, because, you know, from episode 2 to 3 is, like all the between story is fleshed out in its entirety between episode 2 and 3 with Star Wars Clone Wars. It's fantastic.
She's amazing in the Clone Wars and Rebels, so I was really excited for this show. But I did say to myself that if they screw this up, then I'm pretty much done with Star Wars. And yeah, they screwed it up.
Yeah, they screwed it up.
Previously likable characters were dull and boring. Thrawn was a massive letdown. The production design screamed Disney Plus mediocrity. And once again, there was a reliance on cameos to make things interesting, with Hayden Christensen returning again as Anakin Skywalker, which makes sense due to the connection between him and Ahsoka. But these cameos are meant to be the cherry on top, not the reason you watch the show, which is exactly what this was. The only original bright spot from this show was the character of Baylan Skoll, who we unfortunately probably won't see again, as the actor who made the character so likable and intriguing passed away last year. So Ahsoka was yet another disappointment. And then we looked to the future, and unfortunately, yeah, it's not looking any better.
Oh yeah. The Bad Batch, the Acolyte, Tales of the Jedi, Skeleton Crew, like I don't know what any of these are. Like, if they turn out to be good, great. But because if I'm going to do like a appeal to history on this bullshit, it's like, what has been happening in the last couple years with Star Wars? Well, mostly everything has been bad. So what hope could I possibly have for any of these to be good? What future?
So when we look to the future of Star Wars, I would love to say to you that I'm optimistic, but I'm just not. The Acolyte is next on the agenda, and that show has been absolutely smashed online. Leslie Headland has been the punching bag for this show's discourse, and it hasn't even come out yet. Now, I did the due diligence of what
you're catching strays before the show's even out. That's so fucking funny.
Several interviews with her talking about Star Wars, and it's clear that she does have above average knowledge of the lore.
Okay.
But it's also clear that she's extremely egotistical with her filmmaking and intends to use the show to project her beliefs as opposed to just telling a good story.
Bro, I am sick and tired of these bonehead directors like projecting their ideals into movies. Like, I don't want to be told what to think. Just tell a good story. That's it. That's all I want. People don't want to be told what to think. They don't like that. And I will only guess that I don't know if this is a movie or a show. I don't know. And I don't care either. We'll see what happens when it comes out.
You get the vibe that she's using Star Wars as a platform instead of an opportunity to contribute to one of the greatest fictional worlds ever created. And it looks like that's where this show is going to go off the rails. Having said that, the show has not come out yet, and I'll always give something at least the benefit of the doubt, so I'm sure we'll be talking about The Acolyte again very soon. But then we have the Rey movie that's going to be coming out in a couple of years. And this just screams Disney just being completely out of touch with fans. I think the writers of the sequels did the Rey character so damn dirty.
Yeah.
Daisy Ridley did everything she could to make that character likable, but she was severely let down in the writer's room. And at worst for her...
Yeah, like, she wasn't like a horrible actor. She was just acting what she was told to act or whatever. I mean, she worked out, started running and all this, like, tried to do like all the choreography, and I think she did a pretty good job for the most part. It's just the story. It's the foundational story that is just bad.
I'm glad she's collecting the bag with this movie, given how screwed over she was with the character's lineage being chopped and changed a million times.
Yeah.
But the fact this movie is going to even exist is just blatant evidence that Disney are hell-bent on staying as disconnected as possible with the people that these films are made for. There's also an original movie coming from James Mangold, who brought us Logan, but also brought us Indiana Jones 5. So yeah, make of that what you will.
Oh yeah,
and there's
that's
also
weird.
The Dave Filoni movie that's going to bring to a head all the Disney Plus shows, which would be great if most of the shows were actually good. But I'm sorry, I just don't care where the end of Mando Season 3 or Book of Boba Fett leads to. It feels like they're trying to build up to an Infinity War or an Endgame, but imagine if everything pre-Infinity War and Endgame was Thor: The Dark World.
Ugh. God, that is a horrible future.
Probably not the greatest idea. The only thing I'm actually looking forward to is the third Jedi game with the character of Cal Kestis.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, like these games are like pretty good. They're like Star Wars Souls like more or less. Um, I mean, I haven't gotten around to playing them yet. I saw like a lot of the reviews are just like mixed, so I'm just like, eh.
Fallen Order and Survivor are great, and I can't wait to see the conclusion of that story. But that's about all that is keeping me interested in this IP at the moment. It's honestly really sad.
The games are literally carrying the IP. That's so funny.
And I know a lot of people are going to say, well, if you don't like it anymore, why'd you make this video? I made this video because I'm a Star Wars fan. This is a letter to Disney in a way. I'm frustrated and I don't want to be this way. But the way Disney have controlled this IP and driven it into the ground has forced me in this direction.
Yeah.
And that absolutely sucks. So to bring this...
Yeah, it seems like for me, if a new Star Wars thing comes out, the less cooks in the kitchen, the better it will be, is what I can gather from a lot of this. Like, for me, Star Wars needs to have, like, a vouch from, like, somebody for me to, like, oh, is this good or not? And that's the whole reason, like, some of these critics have been, like, coming, like, under fire and shit. Within the last like couple years and whatnot, because a lot of the Star Wars movies have just been bad, and the critics just review them and they give them bad reviews, and oh my god, it's the critics' fault that Star Wars is doing so horrible. Well, no, it's not. It's if the movies were good, they would give good reviews. So, I mean, it is what it is, man. For me to enjoy like a Star Wars thing, I would need to it needs a vouch from somebody.
This one altogether, it truly is tough as a massive former Star Wars fan to sit here and say without joking that I just don't care about Star Wars anymore.
Yeah.
This IP was everything to me a few years ago, but the mere mention of it in passing conversation just frustrates me now. And I know
same.
for a fact I haven't grown out of Star Wars because I can watch the original trilogy or the prequels or play Fallen Order and Survivor, and I remember why I loved it in the first.
Like, I don't really bring up Star Wars anymore in general conversation. If I do, it's always in reference to like either like some of the old video games or the old movies. It's never anything like modern Star Wars. Because I just like if I'm not enjoying a thing in its current form, I simply don't talk about it. And when you don't talk about something, that is the best way to make it become irrelevant. If you really want to hurt Disney or Star Wars, hit them where it hurts, in the pocket. Stop seeing the shows, unsubscribe from Disney Plus. Don't go to see the movies on opening day or whatever. Just wait. Wait for something. Wait for your favorite influencer to go out and watch the movie. They'll give a review on it and just figure it out. That's my best advice. Don't waste your time.
First place. But the vast majority of shows coming out under Disney's reign are just pushing me further and further away from the franchise. And that sucks, and I know that I'm not alone on this one. We used to point and laugh at the people that said that Disney were killing Star Wars. Well, here we are in 2024, and they basically have killed it.
Yeah.
It's really sad. Now, before I go, I just want to say, be sure to follow me on all my socials, Instagram, Twitter, Twitch. I never plug them, so I'm just starting to, actually be a YouTuber for once. You get more of a behind-the-scenes look for the channel and just what I get up to in my day-to-day life. And again, be sure to subscribe to this channel as we're closing in on 100,000 subscribers. And
nice.
It would just be insane if we could hit that as soon as possible. Like, it'd just be crazy. But that is it for me today. Thank you so much for watching, and take care.
Dang. Yeah, man. That's another banger video. I mean, Star Wars. It's not looking like it's gonna have a bright future. Who knows if it's ever gonna get better, man. I mean, only time will tell. Like, I would hope something good comes out. But like in the near future, it doesn't look like it. Yeah. It is what it is. But yeah, that was a banger from Movie Overload. Go check him out. I think he's great. But yeah, that's pretty much it for me. So I'll catch you guys on the next one. All right, later.